Proudly offering sanctuary to the Oregon senators still on the run. God bless you. God bless America. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up this week, the God and Country Festival in Nampa, Idaho, 4 o'clock at the amphitheater at the Ford Idaho Center. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a great night. It's free. The fireworks, you'll hear them exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio. It's going to be an outstanding time. We can't wait to meet and see all of you this Wednesday. Joining us now is Robert Spencer. We've known him for years. He's a patriot, someone who says things that a lot of us think and writes things that a lot of us would be run out of town for, and for speaking the truth. Mr. Spencer, good to have you back.
Always great to be here, Kevin. Thank you.
You know, we think about this, and, the social media giants are talking about tolerance and everything else. You, as a conservative, have been targeted for just speaking the truth. What do you make of the elevated emphasis on social media and their behavior these days?
The social media giants are monopolies that are controlling the public discourse to a degree that even the most ironclad totalitarian regime could only have dreamed of doing. And they are systematically targeting people who dissent from the far left agenda and deplatforming and silencing them. I have been targeted in this way myself. Many, many others have, of course, as well. And what they're trying to do is make sure that the 2016 election doesn't happen again. The 2016 election was a time when the American people turned away from the establishment mainstream media. They thought for themselves. They got their news from online sources that were free and independent. And so now the social media monopolies are trying to close down those sources and make sure that only the establishment media point of view gets heard by the American people.
Indeed, and yet we don't know this because the media seems to be in the pocket of these things. How much of a shot, Mr. Spencer, and we're going to get into what you do and Jihad Watch and Iran and everything else, and you passionately believe and tell the truth that your life has been threatened repeatedly, but how big of a shock was the election of 2016 to the media industrial complex along with their social media acolytes?
You know, it can't be exaggerated. It was a seismic shock. It was a massive blow. And the evidence of that is in their hysteria that continues to this day in trying to delegitimize the Trump administration, trying to frame him in the first place with the Russian collusion business. And that persists, but now that it's largely fallen through, trying to find something, anything that they can hang on him to either impeach and remove him from office or just to make sure that he's not elected again in 2020. These things are an incredible blow to American democracy. The American Republican system, that is the system of a republic, not the Republican Party, has always been based on the idea of mutual respect, on the idea that you had a loyal opposition that was considered legitimate, and there was a mutually respectful disagreement between the two parties, but they both allowed each other the idea that they were at least operating in good faith and goodwill. Now that's all gone. The left demonizes its opposition and is trying to completely silence us, and this is a massively unconstitutional and anti-American endeavor.
Is anybody looking out for the conservatives?
Not really. Donald Trump himself has said a few times that the social media giants should stop all this, or there'll be antitrust legislation or something done to stop them. But he hasn't really followed up. I hope he will. He certainly could in the next few months. But if he doesn't, then the 2020 election is going to be vastly more difficult for people who are not far-left socialists.
Robert Spencer joining us from Jihad Watch, also the Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam, The Truth About Muhammad, The History of Jihad from Muhammad to ISIS. Mr. Spencer, you've written over 19 books. You've got another one coming out. You know, as someone who studies the bad people in the world and warns people about the bad people, your thoughts on this latest with the Iranian, I can't really describe it. It's, every couple of years Iran pops up, it seems.
Yeah, well, now they have billions of dollars that Obama gave them, and they've been using it. It's been amply demonstrated to fund terror groups, including Hezbollah, around the world. And we should not forget that Hezbollah operates in Mexico, in collaboration with the drug cartels. And they're not doing that because they are interested in Mexico. They're doing that because they want to get here. And, of course, now the latest tensions are being blamed, like everything else, on Trump, as if Obama had brought peace with his disastrous nuclear deal and that Trump has now ruined all that. The reality is, though, that Iran has wanted war with the United States for decades. I show all this in a book I wrote in 2016, The Complete Infidel's Guide to Iran. You can go back to 2011, and the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, he said, wherever a movement is Islamic, populist, and anti-American, we support it. Those were not just empty words. They do support not just Islamic terrorist groups around the world, but also leftist groups like Podemos in Spain, which is a far-left group that is growing in power, has been shown to be getting funding from the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has a large-scale goal of trying to destabilize and destroy, ultimately, the governments of the West and exploit the resulting chaos.
Our great friend Robert Spencer joining us here. Jihad Watch, Kevin Miller in the morning. This goes back to 1979. Most Americans don't understand it. They get their news from the television. Martha, and I don't mean to insult you, sir. I'm sure you saw the Martha Raddatz puff piece where she went into Tehran, and it was the Iranians are good, Donald Trump is bad, while she was there. Then she replayed a little of it this week, but your thoughts on the coverage of the regime in Iran? I miss Crazy Mahmoud personally.
Well, at least he was a little bit more honest. His successor, Hassan Rouhani, has benefited from a thinly veiled PR campaign that covers up the fact that he's pretty much the same as Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, that he is just as repressive, just as authoritarian, just as brutal against his own people. Women who dare to take off the hijab have been jailed for up to 10 years, tortured in prison. And this is all happening in a regime that the establishment Western media persists in calling moderate. Hassan Rouhani was routinely described as moderate, especially during the Obama years when they were trying to sell the nuclear deal. He's not a moderate. He is just as bloodthirsty as his predecessors. And Trump, to his credit, recognizes this, but continues to be lambasted by as you noted, by the establishment media for not towing their line.
Well, what is the solution with Iran?
Well, war is going to come with Iran unless that regime topples. And so the solution is to do everything we can to topple that regime. And I was happy to see that Trump called off the military strike after the Iranians shot down an American drone. And not that he was supine and spineless in doing that, but he recognized that people would be killed and that it was a disproportionate response to the destruction of an unmanned drone. And he instead ordered cyber attacks, which have crippled Iran's computer infrastructure. And consequently, they may be stymied in a great deal of their activities in the near future. This is what we need to continue to do. We need to also aid and empower elements within the country which are growing, that are against the regime, and ultimately wish to topple it. Because, as I say, the Islamic Republic has wanted war with the United States, itching for war with the United States, working toward war with the United States for decades. Ultimately, that war is going to be inevitable, not because of Donald Trump, but because of the Iranians, unless this regime falls. The people of Iran hate it, and the only problem is that it's so repressive, so brutal, so violent, that any opposition is immediately crushed. But we need to do all we can to make sure that that kind of opposition nonetheless can grow and prosper and ultimately prevail.
Robert Spencer joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio from Jihad Watch. Mr. Spencer, let's go back to the Iranians and their funding of terrorists, their funding of the making of the IEDs that would pierce armored Humvees. These are bad actors. When we're talking about war with them, what would that look like? We've got people this morning going, oh, they're going to attack us. Aren't they attacking us anyway?
Yes, they are. They certainly are trying to provoke responses, knowing that the Western media is going to present Trump and the Americans as the aggressor, no matter what happens. It has to be said, though, that they were much more aggressive during the Obama administration. You may remember that they actually seized an American ship at that time in the Gulf and humiliated the American personnel that were on it. Obama, of course, did nothing but give them billions in response. They're a little bit more circumspect now, and we can hope that the strong stance of this administration will continue to make them so.
Indeed, we go back to that, and we've talked a little bit about that here on KIDO Talk Radio, what they did to the sailors and everything else. The idea, people are saying it's not going to be a cakewalk, but couldn't we just cripple them without going in and to help the opposition?
Yes, and that's what I think that has already begun to happen with the cyber attacks, and there are various other initiatives that have been going on for quite some time. You may recall that the Iranian nuclear scientists who were working on Iran getting the nuclear bomb, many of them have met with unfortunate accidents, and people have, of course, cried out and said that the Americans or the Israelis or both are doing these terrible things. The reality is, though, that this is a war that the Islamic Republic of Iran is pursuing, and those men were essentially combatants in this war. And the naivete of those who don't recognize that is off the charts. The reality of the Islamic Republic of Iran is that they order all the people in the mosques on Fridays to chant "Death to America." And there was a senior Iranian official who explained a few years back that "Death to America" is not just a chant or a slogan; it's the official policy and the goal of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Robert Spencer joining us, Jihad Watch, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So, how close did the mullahs come to being overthrown in 2008?
Oh, they would have been at that time, except they got help from their friend Barack Obama.
Right.
He refused, of course, to side with the demonstrators, and he stood by and did nothing while the Iranian regime cracked down brutally on murdering those demonstrators in the streets, imprisoning, torturing them, and so on. And ended up concluding this deal with them after that, without holding them accountable to the slightest degree. That regime would not be there if we had had a president in 2008, 2010, who was willing to stand up to them and to side with the people who were rising up.
Finally, Mr. Spencer, here on KIDO Talk Radio, the Straits of Hormuz. As kids, we've heard about this for years, going back to when they took the embassy and everything else. How crucial is that area?
Oh, it's very crucial in terms of international shipping and international commerce. The Iranians could cause quite a bit of trouble if they close all that off. And, of course, that's one of the things that they hope to do. The question will be then whether we are willing to allow this to happen, as certainly the Obama administration probably would have, or whether we act decisively to prevent it. And it certainly seems as if the administration today is working to head off any crisis of that kind and making sure that the Iranians understand that any provocation in that regard is going to be met with a strong response.
Robert Spencer, we sure appreciate you, sir. Jihad Watch, why should people check it out?
Jihad Watch is the one and only site on the web that gives you comprehensive coverage of jihad activity in the United States and around the world. I think a lot of people would be quite surprised to see the news items that we reproduce and comment upon there, showing that jihadis are still quite active in the United States and certainly around the world. And this is something all Americans need to be informed and aware about.
Well, be safe, brother. Be safe.
You too. Thanks, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. That is our great friend, Robert Spencer. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling on the right side. Thank you, Sean Hannity, Kevin Miller in the morning. So the Iranians, well, they don't have computers anymore. They got the malware probably that worked on us here recently. We'll take your calls on that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Don't forget Treasure Valley God and Country coming up Wednesday. Hope to see you at the Ford Amphitheater, Idaho Center. And we're going to have a great time. By the way, just a little beat from Boise Music Festival, one of the biggest ever. Hope you had a great time. I know Ray Kuhn was there and his family. Many others stopped by to see us. It was an incredible time. I thought Pitbull was outstanding. And just a thankful message to all the sponsors, all the people that made that happen. And for you coming out, and the weather was just great. Liberal Steve joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, America. Wow. Can you believe? Robert Spencer, your last guest there, they all kind of push it to the edge. You know what I mean? They kind of use that fear-mongering and they all have valid points. I'm not saying that, but when he goes after Obama all the time and with his blogs, I read his blogs, and then he says Obama gave Iran money. I mean, come on. Trump just gave the Palestinians $50 billion with a big B. $50 billion.
Now, where did you see that at?
That's the headlines.
Not on my
major
headlines. It wasn't my major headlines.
Well, yeah,
I think there's a major difference. The Iranian money was going back to what Jimmy Carter kept from them. And they've used that for terrorism. They've used that to sponsor terrorism.
Well, sure. What else are they going to do with it? I mean, they're not going to feed their people, apparently. It's all going to come out in the wash. Israel, if there's any nuke even close to being made, Israel will be in there and boom, knock it out right away. They already have. Israel has bombed Iran many, 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 many times. But I don't think we should be doing cyber attacks because we don't want cyber attacks here in the U.S. either. I mean, we don't want our economy to come to a complete standstill because somebody got in and...
Well, they've been trying to do that. Do you think the Iranians and the North Koreans haven't been doing that? That's very naive on your part.
No, don't go saying that. Very naive on my part.
Incredibly naive on your part. I would think you'd know better.
You make me sad when you just keep pushing that like that. I know that they're doing cyber attacks. Everybody knows they keep trying. That's why we have the NSA. That's why we have Snowden's out there working for us. Come on. And what's with Trump now that he's running his campaign? Oh, fake news, fake news, fake news. He won't even talk. He talks to Hannity once, but he's been on with Brennan, CBS. He's on Sunday with Chuck Todd. What is it? All the fake news, all of a sudden is no longer fake news, and he wants to talk to him. He's got snort the cocaine Snopolis following him all over the place. The guy is such a wishy-washy banker. He's no different than the others. I'm going to drain the swamp. Yeah, right. All he did was more money for the big bankers. I'm so tired of both sides.
Well, who gave the big bankers the biggest amount of money?
Bush.
Obama.
Bush did. He bailed them out.
He saved the economy. George Bush saved America.
Oh, that's like cyber attacks will take America down, not banks failing. We'll take care of ourselves if the banks fail. I'll start a bank if the banks fail.
I'm sure you'd have a very interesting...
What I'm saying is...
Much more interesting than this phone call, sadly.
Oh, yeah. What have you had to say in 10 years that changed the world? Hey.
You got me on that one.
Yeah, I know, but come on. You have to admit.
What if I'm trying to think of what I said 10 seconds ago?
I don't know. So, this will all wash away and it'll be back to Kim. Kim and Trump writing love letters to each other, and him not stopping with his missiles. And then it'll be back to China with the tariff thing. And then Mexico is doing their part or not doing their part and back to the wall. And it's all fear-mongering just to keep everybody in their little
They
corner.
Shot a drone out of the sky.
Big deal. I have drones flying over me all the time. I don't shoot them out of the sky, but why not? There's nobody on board. It's just a piece of metal with a bunch of cameras in it and recording devices. Big deal. $110 million? We could have gave that $110 million to Iran not to shoot it out of the sky.
Well, this and the bed bug infestation story have been the highlights of my day. I appreciate the call.
You had bed bug infestations?
No, it's a story from Channel 6.
Oh. Well, if you quit sleeping in the street, you'd be fine. Anyway, you stay fired up, Miller, and I'm just saying, fake news, don't tell us fake news. And now Sarah left him, and all of a sudden he realized, hey, if I'm going to get reelected,
I think we've covered that. I think we've covered it enough. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being on the air. I love your show, and I love your callers. And I got to get to work. Chickens are calling. Bye.
Chickens are coming home to roost. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave.
What's every Gabbard?
And I'm Kevin Miller. Let's find out what's happening in your world on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie.
Senators that are not here to please, if you would, come to the building.
Oregon Senate President Peter Courtney this morning pleading for Republicans to come back. We're told the 11 Republican senators who are out of state won't say where they are. They left the Capitol to protest a cap-and-trade bill preventing a vote. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Catherine Kissel. This marks day 4 of the walkout and the second day of rallies outside the Capitol.
And we'll have more of that in a minute. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Here we have a group of freedom fighters supporting the logging industry, the timber industry, and protesting the, what do they call that? The rubber stamp vote of Governor Kate Brown. Well, Kate Brown, you're not the boss of the folks in Oregon. You're not the boss, certainly, of the people in Idaho. And as I said, the Oregon senators, we would love to have them. They could stay here at the broadcast center. I'm sure we could get them some free food, some free lodging until the session runs out. This is what happens when you have a government that doesn't listen to its people. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The Republicans are on the run. Pete, good morning from Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. We have a coffee club we refer to sometimes as the bucket of deplorables here in Mountain Home because there's too many to fit in the basket. And if the Oregon senators, if they would like some free coffee, we've established a sanctuary coffee club here in Mountain Home. So
you're inviting them. That's what I like. I think that everyone listening should call in with an invitation, just like you said, for these Oregon senators if they want to have a cup of coffee with the bucket of deplorables and others.
Yeah, it's you just hang let me see, you're coming down the freeway from Boise, hang a right at exit 95, come down American Legion, the third traffic light, turn left, and there's a big sign there on your left that says coffee. That's us. I
see, the coffee club. So,
and we have people in the club who will probably even be willing to accommodate them in their homes.
Right. I mean, when people come in to play for the Boise Hawks or whatever, they have, what do they call that, sponsored families. We could be doing that for the Oregon senators. We could, they could have somebody's spare room, that sort of thing, room and board. I'm sure a lot of people in Idaho are supporting these guys.
Oh, absolutely. I think what they're doing is great. That's and, the Democrats did that, I think, 10 or 15 years ago when the Republicans were running things. The Democrat senators all disappeared on them to keep a quorum.
Right. I think, and Ray and Maya and I were talking about this the other day. It happened in Wisconsin. It did happen in Oregon in the House in 2011. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, hear you. And what a lot of people in the media aren't covering is you have people that drive trucks. You have people that are timber people. Like our timber industry has been wiped out. And here's another one, Pete. You're an astute political guy, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So if I were running for governor, I talk about fixing the roads. I talk about, all the things that don't get done no matter who's in the office. And then I talk about bringing back the timber industry. Now, is there a reason why we don't have the timber here? Was it the EPA, the MIA, the CIA? Let's find solutions.
Yeah, it's basically the environmentalist wackos that every time, and the Forest Service in particular, every time they wanted to do a timber sale, somebody would file a lawsuit against them, and it would take so long to do to cover all the stuff that you needed to win the lawsuit that the Forest Service finally gave up on it. And that's one of the reasons we have so many giant forest fires, because back in the good old days when they were harvesting timber, there were timber haul roads all through the forests, and they were cutting enough trees that, they could stop the fires. They could get up there quickly. But now it's, we'll just let it burn.
Crazy times, Pete. Thank you for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO, and many people are on the Facebook. By the way, if you want to comment on what's going on in Oregon, and could we ever have anybody have enough guts to do that here, go ahead. But just a brief note, I was watching the social media over the weekend in between working at the Boise Music Festival and my off-air duties here at KIDO Talk Radio, and there seems to be, and I kind of took it as a compliment, there seems to be there's a battle going on between the liberty groups in the state of Idaho and this website called idahoconservatives.com. And so I'm looking at this article where the folks at idahoconservatives.com say that the liberty people are out to get them. And so I'm looking at the people that are attacking the Idaho conservatives, and there's Greg Pruitt. There's Eric Parker from the Real 3%ers. There's Tom Munns. It was like a list of people that listened to this program. So I sent it to the Tea Party Bob, and he goes, I must be doing something right. I didn't make the list. And I'm going, yeah, you're right about that, Tea Party Bob. You're usually at the top of the list. But the crux of the article, and then you had Greg Pruitt from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance answer back concerning this issue involving, you know, what you can say and what you can't say on social media. Now, the great thing about our program is you can say whatever you want, and you have the liberty groups and you have other folks that are going back and forth and making allegations of censorship. I don't know if that's happening, but it's fascinating, the dialogue going on. And speaking of Greg Pruitt, he launched a video series where he's talking about, you know, people taking over the state of Idaho, which has been, you know, Greg has been talking about that for years. We've been talking about that for years. And I think there is an issue. There's a new movie out by Citizens United concerning The Blueprint, which is the book, you know, detailing how Colorado got taken over by the libs. And we possibly see that coming here. But there's a fascinating point that I'm trying to get to here in a kind of a goofy kind of way. And the point being the future of Idaho. And look, we're going to get back to the thing in Oregon. We're going to talk about this with Dave Petzo coming up. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, how optimistic are we all about the future of the state? Now, I love that ACHD is closing down Star Road. I don't understand. You know, you drive anywhere in West Ada County, and maybe it's the same in the city of Boise. Maybe it's the same where you live. And there's too many roads being closed, right? And I'm going, well, there's an impact on the quality of life. There's no roads to drive on. You waste the $3.50 that you spend in gas using up all your gas because the roads are closed. Well, we have to do it. What's the plan there, ACHD? So we have this massive transportation issue. We have the grocery tax that hasn't been repealed. People think that we have forgotten about it. No, we have not. We have the influence of people that want to legalize marijuana and turn us into Colorado North or Oregon East, something of that nature. And then you have an article, and it was in the New York Times. I want to thank David Bozell, actually, for sending it to me. It's called Who Gets to Own the West? And it's a huge, almost a 2,000-word piece that details the Wilkes brothers and others that are coming into states like Idaho to buy up the land. And here's the subheadline: a new group of billionaires is shaking up the landscape. And it talks about the Wilkes brothers, who, by the way, are some of the most successful conservative entrepreneurs in America. They're named Dan and Ferris, and they grew up with nothing. You're talking about brothers who grew up in a goat shed. They never finished high school. Now they're billionaires because of fracking. And in this piece, it talks about, and we're going to get more into this because that is our mission, to make Idaho a better place. We're talking about an issue here where the land is being bought up by people from out of state. Now, look, people have a right to buy land, but when it comes to public roads, cutting that off. So, again, with the challenges here in Idaho, the infrastructure, the Pro-Pot Express, the big money landowners coming in, the government that isn't as conservative as its people, the 20,000 folks that have already come in here last year from California. How optimistic are you about the future of this state. Not everybody can move to Wyoming. And is this where we make our stand? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I know that's a little heady for this Monday morning, but just kind of looking at this. And then this battle between, and they mentioned Tom Munns. Tom Munns makes the target list. Greg Pruitt making the target list concerning the Idaho Conservatives, this website, idahoconservatives.com, and the Liberty folks and the real 3%ers. I'd love to hear from you next. Join the conversation now, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on the home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.
Senate President Peter Courtney began the Sunday session with a roll call. Just 18 senators showed up.
Everybody knows we need 2 more. And I don't think there's 2 more in the building.
Outside the chambers, a large crowd had gathered to support the 11 absent Republicans. At one point, they broke out in the national anthem. The sticking point here is House Bill 2020, a cap-and-trade bill for Oregon.
We specifically asked them, we told them, do whatever it takes to stop 2020.
Jane Stackhouse came to thank Democrats for showing up. She says Republicans need to come back to work.
I would like an environment where my grandchildren can have a good life.
On the Capitol steps, dozens of people came to support what they're calling the Magnificent 11. There did not appear to be a militia outside. Business owners and loggers say the bill would hurt them and their customers.
Which I believe will increase costs by approximately 20% to my customers.
It puts a lot of restraints on the timber industry, which will in turn affect both of us in the industry that we are in.
Bridger Hasbrook, a logger, is in full support of the walkout.
They couldn't be doing any better at representing us right now.
A Republican whip spokesperson said they want the Senate adjourned indefinitely. Courtney said Republicans need to come back. They have other work to do.
Would you please come to the floor so we can conduct business of the Oregon State Senate? We can address our budgets, address our public policies that is our duty to do as state senators.
Now, the Senate is adjourned until tomorrow morning. The Senate Minority Leader Herman Bertschiger released a statement here today saying that Democrats lacked courage by closing the Capitol yesterday and limiting space in the gallery here today. He says that they are still standing firm and remain out of state.
Well, we know where they are. That would be in the great state of Idaho at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. So we've got the Oregon Republican senators on the run. We are offering them sanctuary here at KIDO Talk Radio. We will negotiate food for you. We'll negotiate water for you. We'll negotiate a place to stay. And there in Oregon, you have the Senate Majority Leader saying, please come back. So if you're had a life, you were over the weekend, you were enjoying the great weather in the Treasure Valley. Maybe you went to Boise Music Festival. Maybe you went out hunting, fishing, walking, hiking, whatever you did, and you just kind of got out of things. Well, the Oregon Capitol was closed over the weekend because reports that the militia was coming. Now, how does this play into the overall theme of, is this the correct way to run a state? As somebody brought up to me last week, you know, you have the death of Lavoy Finicum. You have the Burns Malheur County standoff, and you have a strong Pacific Northwest region patriot group that is circulating around there. And people are going to say, well, the militia intimidated people. No, the militia didn't do anything. What the militia did do is tell the Oregon folks, hey, you better behave. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, traffic and weather together.
It's every Cameron.
And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning. Getting back to this thing involving the Oregon folks, the cap-and-trade policy would devastate the timber industry. The cap-and-trade policy would raise money on gasoline. The cap-and-trade policy allegedly would lower emissions, but at what cost? And you have people that are truck drivers. You have people that are timber folks, lumbermen that work all day cutting down trees, very dangerous work. You remember that series, The Axemen, right? Where they had the people cutting down trees all the time and how dangerous that was. And this is how we're going to reward American workers by taxing them out of existence. Yes, I know we have the people that are worried about the emissions. You want to take care of the emissions? You want to take care of the problem involving the bad air? Go to India. Go to China. Go to some of these places that continue to pollute. Not here. Not in America. We have the most restrictive regulations when it comes to the industry. Like I said, you've got these folks that are saying, bright lights, big city, we've had enough. And then you have these Oregon state senators that are on the run. And you're thinking to yourself, is this really happening? Yeah, it really is happening. In America today, you have elected officials so fearful of state government. And we're not talking about in the South. We're not talking about anywhere else. We're talking about right here in our neighborhood where you have people saying, we can't negotiate with these people. We want to stick up for our workers. We want to stick up for our people. So what we're going to do is we're going to vamoose. We're going to get out of town. And I believe they're doing the right thing. Over the weekend, Chuck Todd, Swarmy Marmy Chuck Todd, had a chance to speak with the president. Now, I watched this yesterday on Liberal Meet the Press, and I don't think there's a greater show on television than Liberal Meet the Press. And the president is there. He's trying to have an honest dialogue with Chuck Todd. Listen to the nature of the question and just how disrespectful Mr. Todd is of Mr. Trump.
About a president who on his watch had Iran shooting down a drone, a Venezuelan dictator thumbing his nose at you, Obamacare still on the books, and no results yet on the border. The border getting...
Well, let's take a look.
I just say, what would candidate Trump have said about that?
Let's take a look. The border lawsuit
does it
where they tried to
frustrate
say...
you that your border numbers are worse than Obama's?
No, but they were built.
Let's talk about what's happening now. Your administration, you're not doing the recreation. You're not even schooling these kids anymore. You've gotten rid of all that stuff.
We're doing a fantastic job under the circumstances. The Democrats aren't even approving giving us money. Where is the money? You know what? The Democrats are holding up the humanitarian aid.
It looks like these kids are being used as some sort of, is it hostage?
Well, they are being used. They are being used by very bad people on the other side, where they actually get paid. Where money is being made using them because our laws are so bad. Because if you have a child, you have an advantage. You know that better than anybody. And what should happen?
But why let the political debate hurt these children? They could be impacted for years. You prepared to lose?
No, probably not. Probably not. It would be much better if I said, yeah.
It
would be much easier for me to say, whoa, yes. No, I'm probably not too prepared to lose. I don't like losing. I haven't lost very much.
You didn't
in my
like
life.
the fact that you lost the popular vote. That bothered you, didn't it?
There you have it. Swarmy Marmy Chuck Todd. The only thing missing was the president of the United States. Oh, you're a little wise guy, huh, Chuck? Right. And the president made a good point that they didn't play on this clip, where he said, if I had campaigned for the popular vote, then I would have won the popular vote. I didn't campaign in New York. I didn't campaign in California. And the president's right. And the president won, 320 to 212? In the Electoral College math, that's a blowout. That's a blowout. And it's nice to see the president being not politically correct, going, you know something? You're right. I'm not prepared to lose. I'm not going to lose. That's what we talk about with our sports teams. With the Toronto Raptors, are you prepared to lose? No, we're not prepared to lose at all. We're going to win. We're winners. Going back to that speech that George Patton gave to people right before the Normandy invasion, where he said Americans are winners. Nothing wrong with being a winner. There's certainly nothing wrong with being an American. Kevin Miller in the morning, starting your day on the right side. Couple hours to go. Stay with us.